She stood there, her perfectly ironed blouse gleaming in the sun, lips curled with disgust, holding my daughter's certificate between two manicured fingers like it was trash. "Your daughter doesn't deserve recognition," she hissed, loud enough for the entire schoolyard to hear. "Not with her condition." Then she tore it, right down the middle. A clean rip, straight through the words "Outstanding Achievement in Perseverance." My daughter froze, her tiny hands trembling on the wheels of her chair, her bright eyes filling with tears that refused to fall. I couldn't breathe. The air felt thick, like someone had just punched me in the chest. Parents around us gasped. A teacher dropped their clipboard, but no one moved. No one said a word. It was as if the world paused to watch Karen, the self-proclaimed queen of our HOA, humiliate a child who had fought harder than most adults ever had to. And in that instant, everything changed. The certificate wasn't just paper. It was proof that my daughter mattered, that her struggles, her victories, her tears, they meant something. And this woman, this Karen, decided it was her place to erase that. But what she didn't know as she stormed off with that smug little smirk was who had seen everything, who had captured it, and what we were about to do next. Because when you come for a child who spent her whole life fighting just to be seen, and when you try to destroy the one thing she earned with every ounce of her spirit, you don't just tear a certificate. You tear open something much bigger. And what happened after that? That's the part she never saw coming. My name is Jessica Reynolds, and I never imagined I'd be that parent, the one who had to fight not just for her child's education, but for her right to exist in peace. I'm a single mother, a nurse who works night shifts and picks up every extra hour just to make ends meet. Not because I'm desperate, but because I want to give my daughter a life that tells her she is not limited by her disability. Her name is Lily. She's 10. Born with spina bifida, confined to a wheelchair since she was 2, but don't you dare pity her. That girl has more courage in her pinky than most adults have in their entire bodies. Lily is the kind of kid who brings light into a room just by being in it. She's got a quiet resilience, the kind that sneaks up on you. At first glance, you might see the chair or the braces on her legs. But stay a moment longer, and you'll see the sparkle in her eyes, the quick wit in her voice, the way she lifts others up even when the world pushes her down. She loves astronomy, has posters of galaxies on her bedroom walls. She says she wants to work for NASA one day, not as a janitor, not as a desk clerk, as an engineer. And when she says it, she doesn't blink. She spends her afternoons after school building tiny model rockets with her teeth because her hands sometimes don't grip tools the right way. She writes essays about gravity and time and what it would feel like to fly. And every single night before bed, she practices public speaking in front of a cracked mirror. "Good evening. My name is Lily Reynolds, and I believe in stars." Her voice shakes sometimes, but she never stops. Not even when her arms are too sore to hold her script. Not even when her classmates whisper that she'll never make it off the ground. We moved into this neighborhood, Maple Ridge Estates, 2 years ago. It was supposed to be a new beginning, a safer street, better schools, a playground without broken glass. It was everything a mother dreams of for her child. At first, it felt like a dream. People smiled. Lawn signs said community first. But it didn't take long before the smiles turned into stares, the stares into whispers, and the whispers into complaints. It started with a letter from the HOA about the unauthorized ramp we'd had built leading to our front door. It was temporary, made of plywood, just until the city approved the permit. But someone had reported us. We were told it was an eyesore, that it violated visual uniformity. We fixed it. Then came the letter about the unsecured garden flag Lily had hung on our mailbox, a little flag with a picture of the solar system and the words "shoot for the moon." They said it wasn't within community design standards, that it was a distraction to drivers. And then there was Karen Strickland, mid-50s, president of the HOA, drives a Lexus, wears designer sunglasses even on cloudy days, and has never once in her life asked a question she didn't already assume she knew the answer to. She introduced herself with a clipboard in hand and a smile that didn't touch her eyes. "We like things neat around here," she said during our first interaction. "Predictable." She looked at Lily, sitting quietly beside me in her chair, and added, "Children need structure, don't they?" At first, I thought maybe I was reading too much into it. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe motherhood had made me too defensive. But it kept happening. Karen would glare when Lily wheeled down the sidewalk on her way to the school bus. She once said we should consider parking the wheelchair ramp on the side of the house instead of the front, as if we could detach it and move it like patio furniture. When Lily participated in the neighborhood Easter egg hunt, Karen audibly sighed each time Lily took longer than the other kids to reach a plastic egg. "Fair is fair," she said. "If she gets special treatment, it ruins the fun for everyone else." But Lily never said a word in protest. She smiled. She laughed when it was expected. She nodded politely and always said, "Thank you," even when the kindness wasn't there. She once asked me, "Mom, do you think I make the neighborhood uncomfortable?" I didn't have the words to answer her that night. I just held her and told her that she made the world better, starting with me. That's why when she was nominated by her teacher to receive the Perseverance and Leadership Award at school, we were ecstatic. She'd worked so hard, stayed after class for tutoring, learned to type with limited mobility, tutored other kids in math even when she was exhausted. Her teacher said she was the soul of the classroom. The staff agreed unanimously. The certificate was scheduled to be handed out during morning drop-off in front of other students and parents. Lily picked out a dress the night before, practiced her acceptance lines in the mirror for the 100th time. She even brushed her hair twice. She said, "Maybe if I look extra brave, she'll smile at me." She meant Karen. And that morning, when we stood at the school gate holding our heads high, we had no idea that Karen was watching us from across the street, arms folded, and a storm brewing behind her smug little smile. We thought that after the award ceremony, things would finally get better, that the school's public recognition of Lily's strength would inspire kindness, or at least silence the murmurs. For a few days, it felt like it had. A few moms congratulated her at the bus stop. Her teacher gave her a printed copy of her speech with a little gold star. Even the mailman, who usually never said a word, gave her a thumbs up and said, "You're a tough little thing." Lily beamed for days. But for Karen, that ceremony must have felt like a declaration of war. The very next week, we received a formal complaint from the HOA. It stated that Lily was loitering on communal property during after-school hours. The communal property in question? The sidewalk that ran between our house and the bus stop, where Lily would pause every day for a few minutes to catch her breath and chat with the other kids before heading inside. The letter claimed she was creating unnecessary congestion and potentially endangering foot traffic. Foot traffic in a suburban cul-de-sac where the most activity came from retired couples walking their poodles and teenagers skateboarding once a week. I called the HOA to ask for clarification. A woman named Denise, the secretary, answered. She sounded unsure and kept repeating that a neighbor had filed the complaint. I didn't need to ask who. When I said Lily was just socializing with other kids on a public sidewalk, she hesitated before saying, "Well, Mrs. Strickland mentioned that your daughter tends to linger. Some neighbors find it unsettling." Unsettling. That night, Lily asked why people didn't want her outside. I said, maybe someone was having a bad day. She nodded, then quietly asked if she should stop talking to the other kids. I nearly broke. Over the following weeks, things only got worse. Karen began standing near her porch every morning and afternoon, arms crossed, sunglasses perched like armor, watching. Not casually, not politely, with intent. When Lily wheeled by, Karen would suck her teeth loudly or accidentally drop something in Lily's path. Once it was a rake, another time her dog's leash. Each time, she'd act surprised. "Oh, sorry. Didn't see you there," she'd chirp before muttering just loud enough for us to hear. "These kids need to learn to move quicker." Then came the whispers. One evening, as we were returning from grocery shopping, I overheard two neighbors chatting on their front lawn. One of them, A woman I used to exchange holiday cookies with said, "It's just sad, you know? That poor girl. I heard she won some award at school, but honestly, I think they give those out just to make the parents feel better." The other nodded. "It's not fair to the normal kids. Imagine working so hard and losing to a kid just because, well, they saw me. Their smiles flickered. One of them waved awkwardly. The other just turned away. By now, the HOA letters were arriving weekly. Violation number 213. Front yard decor not in compliance. Lily had placed a small astronaut garden gnome near the mailbox, a birthday gift from a friend. Karen called it childish clutter. Violation number 226. Obstruction of view. This time, it was her wheelchair ramp again. We'd had it professionally redone, in full compliance with city codes. But Karen argued it disrupted the neighborhood's aesthetic harmony and lowered property values. Lily started spending more and more time inside. She stopped practicing her speeches. Her rockets sat unfinished on the shelf. She asked if we could take down the galaxy posters from her room. "They make the room look messy," she said. But I knew it wasn't about the posters. It was about shrinking herself, about trying to disappear in a place that made her feel like a burden. The final straw came on a warm spring afternoon. Lily had invited two friends over to work on a science project. They were outside in the driveway with their model volcano, laughing and chatting. For a moment, it was perfect. The laughter of children, the fizz of baking soda, and that little look Lily gets when she's just alive in the moment. Then Karen came striding over with her phone in hand, recording. "This is not an approved gathering," she said loudly. "You're violating HOA noise ordinances. And your daughter's device," she pointed at the volcano, "looks like a hazardous material. I'll be filing a report." I stepped outside. "Karen," I said, trying to stay calm, "they're kids. They're doing a school project." She didn't look at me. Her camera stayed trained on Lily. "I've warned you before," she snapped. "This behavior is disruptive. It creates an environment of disorder. And frankly, Jessica, it's becoming a pattern." "A pattern?" "Yes. Your daughter's presence. It's impacting the neighborhood culture. People have started to feel uncomfortable." There it was. Finally, the mask came off. "You mean disabled," I said. "You're just too cowardly to say it." Karen scoffed. "Don't twist my words. This isn't about that. It's about rules, standards." But she wasn't fooling anyone. Not anymore. Still, no one spoke up. No neighbor came over. No one challenged her. They closed their blinds, pulled their children inside, and pretended they didn't see anything. That night, Lily didn't cry. She just stared out the window, watching the lights go off one by one across the street. Her voice was small. "Do you think she's right? Am I making everything worse?" I knelt beside her. "No, you're the best part of this neighborhood." But in my heart, I feared something I didn't dare say aloud, that for people like Karen, no amount of kindness or courage from a little girl in a wheelchair would ever be enough. And she was just getting started. The morning of the awards ceremony felt electric. Lily had woken up early on her own. She never did that. She was already dressed in her favorite navy blue dress, with little white stars printed along the hem. Her hair was brushed and braided, and she wore the tiny silver star necklace her grandma had given her before she passed. On her lap sat the speech she had rewritten 4 times, folded carefully like a sacred treasure. "I think I'll only cry a little," she whispered as we waited for the bus. "Just when they say my name. Not too much, though. I want to look brave." "You look perfect," I said, though I could barely keep my own voice steady. That day, the school had arranged a small but meaningful ceremony outside near the front lawn, just a few chairs, the principal, the teachers, and a handful of proud parents. The Perseverance and Leadership Award was one of the highest honors given at year's end, meant to recognize a student who had overcome great adversity and inspired their classmates. This year, unanimously, that student was Lily. The moment her name was announced, there was a soft hush, followed by polite applause. Lily's teacher, Mrs. Carlton, read a brief speech about Lily's tenacity, how she never missed an assignment, never complained, and always asked how she could help others. She doesn't let obstacles define her, the teacher said, her voice thick with emotion. She defines herself. When Lily rolled forward to accept the certificate, her eyes were wide and shining. I had my phone out, recording every second. The certificate was placed in her lap. It was large, printed on elegant parchment paper with gold edges and in bold black letters. Lily Reynolds, Award for Perseverance and Leadership. She looked over at me and smiled, mouthing, "I did it." I nodded. My hands trembled. And then Karen arrived. She hadn't been invited. She had no children at the school. No reason to be there. But there she stood, heels clicking on the pavement, sunglasses perched on her head like a crown, a clipboard tucked under her arm. No smile, no greeting, just her cold, cutting stare. At first, I assumed naively that she was there to complain about something else. Maybe the balloons, maybe the folding chairs obstructing the sidewalk. But what she said next froze me where I stood. "Are you seriously giving her that?" She barked, loud enough for everyone in the circle to hear. All heads turned. The principal stepped forward, visibly confused. "Excuse me, Mrs. Strickland. This is a private school ceremony." Karen waved her off like a fly. "This is public property, and I have a right to speak when this neighborhood's values are being publicly undermined." The crowd murmured. My breath caught in my throat. She turned to Lily. "You didn't earn that," she snapped, her voice rising. "You get pushed everywhere. You don't struggle like the other kids. You're treated like royalty, and it's unfair. You don't deserve recognition just because you're in a chair." The air went silent. Lily's mouth parted. Her hands clutched the certificate to her chest. I stepped forward, my fists clenched. "Karen, that's enough. This is a school event," but she was already moving, striding toward Lily like a storm, ignoring the principal, the teachers, the gasps from the other parents. "You want people to think you're brave?" she sneered. "Bravery isn't just surviving. It's not getting pity awards for breathing." And with one swift, venomous motion, she snatched the certificate from Lily's lap and ripped it in half. A jagged tear sliced through Lily's name, right down the center. The paper fluttered to the ground like wounded wings. Lily gasped. Her face crumbled. Then came the silence. Not the kind of silence that follows confusion, but the kind that descends when something sacred is broken. The kind that makes you feel like time has stopped breathing. My daughter, who had endured surgeries, bullies, and sleepless nights with a quiet strength that humbled me daily, began to cry. Not sobs, not wails, just this trembling, soundless grief. Her hands shook, her shoulders curled inward. She didn't know where to look, and God help me, I froze. My heart thundered in my chest. My fingers twitched, but my feet wouldn't move. I was paralyzed, not from fear, but from sheer rage. The kind that clogs your throat and drowns your thoughts. I'd seen Karen's cruelty before, but I never imagined she would go this far. That she would humiliate a child. My child. Teachers rushed in then, one scooping up the torn certificate, another ushering Lily away, shielding her like a wounded animal. The principal demanded Karen leave, but Karen, true to form, didn't apologize, didn't look sorry. She just turned, adjusted her sunglasses, and muttered, "This neighborhood coddles kids like her. Enough is enough." She walked off, like it was just another Tuesday. I found Lily behind the office building 10 minutes later. Her face was pale, lips trembling. She wouldn't speak. She wouldn't meet my eyes. She just whispered, "I didn't do anything wrong, Mommy. Why does she hate me?" And I didn't have an answer. Not then. But deep inside me, something broke open. And something else, the part of me that had stayed quiet, that had tried to keep the peace, that had tolerated the whispers, began to rise because Karen hadn't just ripped a certificate. She had ripped a child's pride. She had tried to tear down a symbol of hope. And what she didn't know was that she hadn't humiliated Lily. She had exposed herself. And soon, the world would see exactly who Karen Strickland really was. Lily didn't speak for 2 days. Not a word. Not a whisper. Just silence. She stayed in her room with the door closed, the blinds drawn, and her wheelchair parked by her bed. She didn't touch her science kits. She didn't open her sketchbook. Her tablet, normally glowing with YouTube videos about space or quiet documentaries about black holes, sat untouched on the desk. When I brought her food, she barely ate. When I asked if she wanted to talk, she shook her head and turned away. The sparkle in her eyes, that unbreakable light that had carried her through surgeries, bullies, therapy sessions, and whispered pity from strangers, was gone. I found the torn certificate that night, folded and placed carefully in her top drawer. Half of her name was still visible. The word perseverance had been split right down the middle. And somehow, that hurt more than anything, I sat alone in the kitchen that night, staring at the torn paper like it had blood on it. Rage pulsed through my body. But deeper than that was shame. Shame that I'd let it happen. That I hadn't stopped caring. That I'd stood frozen while the most important moment of my daughter's life was shattered by a bitter woman with a clipboard. The next morning, I tried to convince Lily to go to school. She refused. When I pushed gently, she raised her voice, something she rarely did. "She's right," she said through clenched teeth. "They only gave me that award because they feel bad for me. I didn't earn it. I never do. I just get in people's way." I fell to my knees beside her. "Don't say that. Baby, you did earn it. You've worked so hard. You've given everything," her voice cracked. Then why did they let her rip it? Why didn't anyone stop her? I had no answer. Because I didn't know. Because I'd asked myself the same question over and over again. Why didn't someone, anyone, step in? At the bus stop, none of the other parents spoke to me. A few gave tight-lipped nods. Some avoided eye contact entirely. The friendliness that had once coated the neighborhood like sweet syrup was gone, replaced by cold indifference. As if I'd done something wrong. As if we had made a scene. Then came the HOA email. It was titled, "Clarification Regarding School Incident." It was signed by Karen Strickland. In the message, Karen painted herself as the victim. She claimed that she had merely voiced concern about improper school procedures and was shocked when a misunderstanding escalated emotionally. She implied that I had encouraged public shaming of her character and that Lily's award had been controversial among staff. She even accused me of weaponizing my daughter's disability for sympathy. She called the video of the incident, which had started circulating on a local parenting forum, selectively edited and unethical. And somehow, people believed her. In the comments of the HOA's private Facebook group, the residents began chiming in. "Karen's always been so professional. This whole thing feels exaggerated. Why did they have to make it public? Awards are personal." Let's be honest, sometimes certain parents expect too much. I read every comment, each one cutting deeper than the last. Only one person, an older woman named June who lived 2 streets down, wrote something kind. She simply commented, "No child should be treated that way. Shame on anyone excusing it." Her comment received 1 like. Karen's post had 23. I sat on my porch that night, holding a mug of tea I couldn't drink, wondering if I had made a mistake moving here. This was supposed to be a safe place, a fresh start. I had fought so hard to build a life where Lily could thrive, and now it felt like we were being suffocated by invisible hands. The silence from the school was the worst. They didn't call, didn't email. Mrs. Carlton, Lily's teacher, hadn't followed up. I called the office. The principal's secretary said they were reviewing the situation internally and considering all perspectives, as if there were 2 sides to what had happened, as if a woman ripping a certificate from a child in public needed further review. I hung up the phone and cried in the bathroom so Lily wouldn't hear me. That night, I sat at the edge of her bed while she stared at the ceiling. Her eyes were open, but she wasn't really there. "Do you want me to homeschool you for a while?" I asked quietly. She didn't respond. But after a long pause, she whispered, "Maybe we should move." "Move?" She nodded. "Somewhere quiet, where I don't have to keep proving I deserve to be here." And that broke me, because I'd had that same thought. Not once, not twice, but a dozen times in the last week. Maybe Karen was right. Maybe we didn't belong here. Maybe it would be easier to disappear, to pull Lily out of school, Sell the house, leave the neighborhood, and just start over again, somewhere far away from HOAs and manicured lawns and judgment disguised as tradition. But deep inside me, another voice started to whisper. A different voice. A furious, righteous voice. No, Karen didn't get to do this. She didn't get to destroy my daughter's joy and walk away with clean hands. She didn't get to write the narrative, twist the truth, and let the world believe she was the victim. I looked at Lily, her tiny chest rising and falling beneath the blankets, her silver star necklace still shining around her neck. She was more than what Karen tried to make her. And I would make sure the world saw that too. It started with a ping. Just one. I was cleaning dishes, my mind numb and my body on autopilot when my phone buzzed on the counter. The screen lit up with a message from a name I didn't recognize. Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm a senior at Lily's school. You don't know me, but I need to show you something. Attached was a video file. I almost deleted it, thinking it might be spam, but something told me to open it. And when I did, my knees gave out. The footage was shaky, filmed from a smartphone at a slight distance, but clear enough to capture everything. Karen's voice, her words, her expression, the violent rip of the certificate, and Lily's face crumpling in real time. The gasps, the stunned silence. Even Karen's final sentence as she walked away, smug and unrepentant. This neighborhood coddles kids like her. Enough is enough. Ryan's message continued. I recorded it because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was afraid to say something then, and I'm sorry for that. But I posted it. I couldn't stay silent anymore. He'd uploaded the video to TikTok just 2 hours earlier. It already had 78,000 views. Within the next hour, it crossed 300,000. By morning, it had been reshared to Twitter, Instagram, YouTube Shorts. Influencers were stitching reactions. Disability advocates were tagging national organizations. One verified user with 1 million followers wrote, I dare you to watch this and not feel something shatter inside you. And then the phone calls began. A local news station reached out first. They'd seen the clip and wanted to interview us. Then the county school board. Then a national morning show producer. My inbox flooded with messages, mothers from across the country, teachers, veterans, even strangers from other countries. Your daughter is a hero. My son is disabled, and your story made me sob. Please tell Lily she is seen. She is loved. She is not alone. Lily hadn't spoken much since the incident, but when I showed her the video, when she saw people commenting kind words and calling her brave, something shifted in her posture. She sat up straighter. Her hand stopped shaking. For the first time in days, she whispered, They're talking about me? I nodded. And they love you. She scrolled slowly, reading every comment, her mouth slightly open in disbelief. When she reached a video of another little girl in a wheelchair holding up a sign that read, #LilyStrong, she burst into tears. But this time, they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of relief. By the end of the week, #LilyStrong was trending on Twitter. Artists began drawing fan art of Lily in a cape. One animation showed her flying through space on a rocket, dragging a banner behind her that read, Perseverance is power. And then came the backlash, but not against us, against Karen. The rest of the HOA could no longer pretend ignorance, not when their president had been exposed on national television. Emails surfaced, old complaints, video compilations of her berating neighbors for trivial things, violations that now reeked of power abuse. Former residents came forward with stories. A single mom of a boy with autism revealed she'd been fined repeatedly for unkept landscaping due to her son's meltdowns preventing her from mowing on schedule. Another family said they'd moved away after Karen tried to ban their daughter's emotional support dog. The board called an emergency meeting, and for the first time since we moved into Maple Ridge Estates, someone knocked on our door, not with threats, not with warnings, but with an apology. It was Mr. Palmer, a quiet man in his 60s who'd lived 2 houses down. He held a sheet of printer paper in his hand. It was a petition to remove Karen Strickland as HOA president. More than 30 households had signed it. We were wrong to stay silent, he said. I can't undo that, but I can help now. Lily watched from behind me, her head tilted, her lips curled into the tiniest smile. Later that afternoon, her teacher, Mrs. Carlton, finally called. "I'm so sorry, Jessica," she began. "We were told not to interfere. But I should have done something. I froze. I let fear stop me." She paused, voice breaking. But no more. She invited Lily to return to school on Friday. Not for a lesson, not for an apology, but for something special. We're holding a real ceremony this time, proper, with the whole student body. Lily's eyes widened. Will they still give me the award? No, Mrs. Carlton said gently. We're giving you a better one. One with your real name in gold. Because now the world knows what we've always known. You're a leader. You're an inspiration. The next morning, Lily practiced her speech again. This time, her voice didn't shake. Friday morning came with the kind of light that made everything feel new. The sky was clear, a soft breeze in the air, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Lily was humming again. She wore the same navy blue dress she had chosen for the first ceremony, but this time she added something extra, a tiny gold pin that read Brave. It had arrived in the mail 2 days before, sent by a woman in Colorado who had seen Lily's story on the news. Attached was a handwritten note for the girl who reminded us all what strength looks like. We pulled up to the school and my jaw dropped. The entire front lawn was decorated, streamers in purple and silver, balloons shaped like stars, a banner stretched across the entrance that read, "We stand with Lily. Perseverance is power." Hundreds of students lined the sidewalk, clapping as we approached. Teachers held signs. Some kids had drawn rockets, galaxies, planets with her name on them. Lily gripped my hand tightly, eyes wide, lips trembling, but this time with disbelief and joy. The principal, Mr. Harding, waited by the microphone at a small stage the school maintenance crew had assembled overnight. His voice boomed through the speakers as we arrived. "Ladies and gentlemen, today we right a wrong. Today we recognize not just a student, but a movement, someone who taught us what real leadership looks like." He turned to Lily. "Lily Reynolds, will you join me?" The crowd erupted in applause as she wheeled herself forward, back straight, shoulders lifted. I couldn't help it. I cried, not softly, but fully. The kind of cry that releases every ounce of pain, fear, and frustration and replaces it with something fierce and free. He handed her a new certificate, but it wasn't just a reprint of the old one. It was custom-made, framed in glass and gold-trimmed wood, engraved with the school seal, and in bold, shimmering letters, "Lily Reynolds, Lifetime Achievement in Courage and Compassion." Lily took the microphone. The crowd hushed. Her voice was small at first, but steady. "I want to thank my teacher, my mom, and all of you for being here. A few weeks ago, someone tried to tell me I didn't deserve to be seen, that I wasn't strong, that I was just someone to feel sorry for." She paused, glanced at me, then back at the sea of faces watching her. But strength doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks quiet. Sometimes it's being afraid and speaking anyway. And I don't want revenge. I don't want anyone to get hurt. A hush settled in deeper. I just want kids like me to be seen, and heard, and treated like we matter. Because we do. The students erupted in cheers. Teachers wiped tears. Even the gruff old janitor clapped from the back, mouthing, "Atta girl." That same day, 3 national organizations released statements recognizing Lily for her bravery. One of them, Children for Inclusion, awarded her a $10,000 scholarship for future STEM education. The story aired that night on every major news channel. Her video had crossed 12 million views by sunset. Hashtags like hashtag We Stand With Lily and hashtag HOA Justice trended for 2 days straight. But while the world celebrated, back in Maple Ridge Estates, the reckoning finally arrived. The emergency HOA board meeting was held on a gray Sunday afternoon. Karen showed up with her usual bravado, hair stiff, lips tight, a stack of papers clutched in her hand like a shield. But this time, the room didn't rise when she entered. They barely looked up. One by one, residents came to the podium. a father whose autistic son was fined for disruptive noises, an elderly veteran fined for overgrown grass while recovering from heart surgery, a mother of twins fined because one of her children had chalk drawings on the driveway, and then me. I walked to the podium, Lily at my side. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just read a single sentence. Your silence made her strong, but your cruelty made her unstoppable. A final vote was cast. Karen Strickland was removed from her role as HOA president permanently. She stood and tried to speak, but no one listened. She walked out without a word, and this time no one followed. Later that week, Lily received a letter in the mail from the governor's office. Inside was a certificate of recognition and a handwritten message. Lily, our state is proud to call you one of its brightest stars. You've shown courage in the face of cruelty, and that kind of leadership will change the world. Lily taped the letter to her wall next to a framed photo from the school ceremony. Then she looked at me and said, "Mom, maybe I really can work at NASA someday." I smiled. You already do. You launched a movement. If this story stirred something in you, don't let it fade when the video ends. Because Lily's story isn't just hers. It belongs to every child who's ever been overlooked, every parent who's been silenced, and every neighbor who's watched injustice happen and didn't know what to do. It's a story about how cruelty can come dressed in rules, how silence can sound like complicity, and how one little girl in a wheelchair became a voice loud enough to shake a nation. So, I'm asking you, yes, you, if this story made you feel something, do something. Megaphones speak up for the person who can't. Speech balloons share in the comments. Have you ever witnessed an HOA Karen bully someone who didn't deserve it? Have you ever stayed silent and wish you hadn't? Orange heart tag someone who needs to see this. Someone raising a brave child. Someone tired of being told they don't belong. Repeat button like, share and subscribe to this channel. Because when we tell the stories no one else dares to tell, you help make sure they're heard. We don't need another Karen making the rules. We need more Lilies rewriting them. Thank you for watching. And remember, perseverance is power.